Welcome to the Hometime Project House. I'm Dean Johnson.
And I'm Peggy Knapp. And in the video you're about to see, Dean and I will be showing you what's involved in adding a new bathroom onto your home.
To do this effectively, we'll need to first show you the fundamentals of a basic house plumbing system. We'll do this in our studio.
Then we'll take you to the site of a bathroom remodeling project with the plumbing all roughed in. We'll show you how to plan and design your bathroom, what roughing in is all about, how to install drywall and cement board, how to install tile around the tub and on the floor, and how to install vanity cabinets and make and install their tops.
Hometime is made possible by Chevrolet, who brings you full-size Chevy pickups, the most advanced in Chevy history. Chevy S10 pickups, compact, fun, and hard-working. Chevy S10 Blazer, America's most popular sport utility vehicle. Chevy Astro, the van that can. The heartbeat of America. Today's Chevy truck.
This video is just one in a library of instructional programs designed to assist the viewer in working on a wide range of home improvement projects. And before we begin our program, I want to explain how you can best make use of this educational system. First off, you should watch the tape all the way through to get an idea of the methods, the steps, and the terminology we use. To help familiarize yourself with the terms, we've included a glossary in the project guide. Then you should review the tape again, only this time, check with your project guide to determine the tools and materials appropriate to your project. Then take the project guide to your local building supply dealer or home center. The people there will be able to assist you, answer questions, and direct you to what you need.
Whether you're replacing a fixture, remodeling an existing bathroom, or adding a new bathroom onto your house, you'll be surprised at the number of tools and materials being manufactured for the do-it-yourselfer. The materials that we'll be using can be divided into 4 groups: framing, plumbing, electrical, and remodeling materials. Now for framing, we'll be using 2x4s for the walls and 2x2s for soffits and ceiling members. For plumbing, our bathroom requires 3-inch ABS plastic pipe for the drain and 2-inch ABS for the venting system. The water lines will be 1/2-inch and 3/4-inch copper. For wiring the bathroom, we'll be running Romex cable to the boxes, the exhaust fans, and the Whirlpool motor. The code also requires a GFI circuit for shock hazard protection. By remodeling materials, we mean the wall panels, which for our project will be water-resistant drywall and cement board, plus the tile, adhesive, and grout that we'll be installing around the walls and the floor.
Let's take a look at some of the tools we'll be using for our bathroom remodeling project. For clarity, we'll split the tools up into 3 sections: all-purpose tools, plumbing tools, and the tools we'll be using to tile and set the fixtures. For our all-purpose tools, we'll be using a tape measure, a 4-foot level, a circular saw, framing and combination squares, and a utility knife. For plumbing, adjustable wrenches, a tubing cutter, a propane torch, a saber saw, an electric drill, a hole saw or butterfly bit. And for our tile project, a tile cutter, a chalk line, a notched trowel, tile nippers, a rod saw, a tub saw, rubber gloves and safety glasses, and a rubber float or squeegee. Some of these tools can be rented at your local equipment rental store. Others, like the tile cutter, can be on loan from your tile supplier.
And depending on the extent of your renovation, a permit may be required. So before you start your project, check with your local building department to see what codes and permits apply to your renovation. And before we begin our project, we want to remind you that no matter how simple or extensive your project is, be safety conscious. If you're in a hurry or if you think you can get by without taking the proper safety precautions, you're just asking for problems.
What we recommend is that you work at a comfortable pace, wear the proper clothing and protection, and follow the manufacturer's guidelines in using their tools, materials, and equipment. The first and most important step in any remodeling project is planning and design. This involves creating an efficient floor plan that can work within the limitations of the space, that's in keeping with appropriate codes and permits required for safety. In designing our bathroom, we had to first evaluate the existing space. We looked for what would be the key focal points in the room, which as we walk in is the whirlpool area. Our plans are for this tub and platform to be tiled to the ceiling, And to tie it in with the rest of the room, we're going to also tile halfway up the wall, tile the floor, and even the ceiling of the shower stall. Now, since the bathroom is situated in the basement without a window, lighting and venting become an important issue. So to provide adequate lighting for the tub, toilet, shower, and vanity, we needed a two-part lighting system: general overhead lighting and specific task lighting for those areas like the vanity that need more illumination. Floor-to-ceiling mirrors along this wall will give a window-like effect, reflecting light and making the room feel larger. For venting and circulation, we've installed 2 ceiling fans, one in this room and one in the vanity area.
Before we begin our bathroom project, we're going to explain the basics of plumbing, so that no matter what kind of bathroom remodeling project you're undertaking, you'll know the fundamentals of residential plumbing.
The basis of plumbing is in directing the flow of liquids and gases throughout the house. Now, in a typical residential plumbing system, you'll find 3 crucial elements: hot and cold water supply lines, fixtures where you actually use the water, like tubs and sinks, and waste and vent lines. Part of the waste vent system provides drainage, and part of it vents off noxious gases and odors that go with them. To trace how the water flows throughout the house via these copper water lines, let's go to where it enters the house, which is either through a municipal water system or a well. The water supply lines deliver hot and cold running water to all plumbing fixtures throughout the house. From here, the cold water line runs to the water heater, where it picks up a parallel hot water line, and together these lines rise and supply water to the bathroom, kitchen, and laundry.
Okay, now let's go to our bathroom in its roughed-in state.
Now we want to show you what you need to do to install new fixtures under a concrete slab as in this basement. First off, you need to remove a portion of the slab to access the drain line to have a place to put the new groundwork that will serve the new fixtures. To remove the concrete, you can hire a contractor or rent a jackhammer and bust up the slab yourself. Here you can see the 3-inch ABS groundwork that we've roughed in. Coming from the main with a Y is a line that will run to the tub. We'll use this line as the vent for the tub, and this one will serve as the drain. And a Y coming off of our 3-inch pipe to the shower stall area. This pipe will serve as the vent and will go up through the wall behind the shower stall. This pipe will serve as the drain. And the 3-inch line continuing over to the toilet area with 2 elbows hooking up the toilet and a T hooking up the vent to the toilet. This Y coming off the 3-inch line hooks up the vent and the drain for the vanity. Both ABS and PVC pipes are acceptable for below-grade application. The reason we went with ABS is because the existing main is 3-inch ABS, and again, you can't mix PVC with ABS. Now, regarding the pitch of the groundwork, the same formula of 1/4 inch per foot applies to waste and vent, whether it's above or below the grade. On this job, we'll have 2 inspections of the work, one before we close our slab and another after our system's installed. So after our groundwork is installed and inspected, we can pour our slab, frame out the walls, and run our vents. With the rough-in complete, the drain for the vanity is located in the stud wall. The drain goes into the floor, and its vent is shared by the same vent that we're using for the toilet. We've located the closet flange high enough off the floor so we're able to slip ceramic tile underneath. Now this is the drain for the shower. Its vent is hooked into the main 2-inch ABS line. The next thing we'll do is hook into the 3/4 inch copper supply lines and make the drops to the fixtures wherever appropriate. Here's a tip to make your tub hookup a little easier. Build a wood box like this around the drain location before you pour your cement floor, leaving plenty of room for the trap assembly. Then once everything's framed in and you have your final plumbing inspection, it's time to do the wiring.
The new bathroom we'll be adding here in the basement has some special wiring requirements. The code requires at least 1 switched light source and at least 1 ground fault interrupter receptacle near the vanity to allow the safe use of a shaver or hair dryer. A ground fault interrupter, or GFI, is a device built into a receptacle that monitors the flow of current through that receptacle. When it detects a ground, like when you step out of the shower and plug in a defective hair dryer, the GFI quickly opens the circuit, shutting off the flow of current, and reduces the danger of electrical shock.
These are excellent safety devices, and the code requires their use in all outdoor receptacles, bathroom receptacles, and most garage receptacles. In our bathroom, we'll run 3 circuits. One 15-amp GFI circuit will run to the whirlpool motor. Another 15-amp circuit will power the lighting and the fans. The third 15-amp circuit will feed the GFI receptacle here on the vanity.
We've completed our plumbing and wiring rough-in. Now let's review where our water lines run throughout the new bathroom. These 2 half-inch stub-outs are the hot and cold supply for the vanity. Over here is the cold water drop for the toilet. Together, these lines tie into the main 3/4-inch supply line overhead using a reducing T. We've also dropped a half-inch hot and cold supply line for the shower. The hot and cold supply lines for the whirlpool are 3/4-inch pipe instead of half-inch to speed up the filling time of the tub. With all the lines stubbed out, we can fit and secure the shower stall. We've already cut 2 holes in the side of the stall to access the valve and shower head assembly. The next step before we hang the drywall is to run flexible vent pipe from the 2 ceiling fans to the main exhaust vent. Regular drywall is water absorbent and can be easily damaged in contact with moisture of any kind. However, there is a special water-resistant drywall made for that purpose. It's called green board because it's green. Now, as far as the installation goes, it's the same procedure. Scoring with a sharp knife, snapping it, and nailing or screwing. Of course, bathrooms do require more cutouts because of the number of protruding pipes. So you want to double-check all your measurements for accuracy.
An alternative to green board for use around tubs and shower stalls is cement board or Wonder Board. It's used by a lot of professionals to create a strong waterproof backing for ceramic tile. It's basically cement that's been sandwiched on both sides using a fiberglass mesh. You'd think because of its composition, it's fairly difficult to cut, but it really isn't. You can use a masonry cutting blade on your circular saw or score it with your utility knife. Then just break it on the corner of the table. Then cut the mesh along the back. If you need a cutout for a shower head, just take the hammer and bash it a couple of times. You don't have to worry about the look of it, since it's all going to be covered with tile and grout. Now to nail it up.
In order to estimate the number of tiles that we need for the job, we have to measure the walls. Now, a good way to do that is to break up the area to be covered into rectangles. As an example, the whirlpool area is made up of several rectangles. The 3 walls behind the tub, the 2 faces of the platform, and then the top of the platform can be broken down into several smaller rectangles. Now, to determine the total square feet of the area, we measure and multiply the height times the width of each rectangle. And it's a good idea to be generous when purchasing materials, to allow for errors in calculation, tiles that might become chipped or damaged in the process, and also possible later replacements. So to our total, we're going to add 10% for waste. You got it?
There you go.
Good. A good rule of thumb for our size tile is 8 4¼ tiles per square foot. So with a total of 211 square feet multiplied by 8 gives us 1,688 tiles. Now, to that estimate, we also want to include the trim moldings and the rounded bullnose tile, also called cap tile. The amount of adhesive can also be estimated by the same square foot measurement. The salespeople at your local tile supply store can assist you in determining the quantity from your figures. Now, here's another tip. When purchasing tile, always check to make sure the tiles are all the same batch number. Colors can vary from batch to batch, so check the numbers that are indicated on each box. The bathroom has a lot of bulky items for the do-it-yourselfer to deal with, from plumbing fixtures to ceramic tile.
And considering all these big payloads, it's easy to see why Chevrolet's new full-size pickup is essential. It's totally new, designed to be the most advanced full-size Chevy pickup ever. It's a great working partner.
Almost as good as you are, Dean.
This long wheelbase model has aerodynamic styling that looks good. but it's also a full-size work pickup with a full-size payload. That's why it's built on a tough, full-size steel frame. The box has double-wall steel construction in the sidewalls and tailgate for strength. It's big enough to hold 4x8 sheets of building materials flat on the floor with the tailgate up.
And the new Chevy comes with a standard Vortec V6 engine on 1/2 and 3/4 ton models. It's designed with fuel injection to start without touching the gas pedal. The Vortec V6 is the most powerful standard engine on a 1/2 and 3/4 ton pickup. Depending on the model, you can also get available fuel-injected V8s, all the way up to a mighty 454.
Another standard feature is an advanced rear-wheel anti-lock braking system. It's designed to help the truck make smooth, straight stops, whether it's loaded or empty. Nice to have on wet or icy roads.
Inside, there's a whole new interior and instrument panel. This is a full-size cab with plenty of room for 3 adults. It's been designed to help you do a day's work without feeling all beat up.
For full-size jobs around the house or anywhere else, Chevy's new full-size pickup is the truck to lean on.
Nothing works like a Chevy truck.
Now for the vanity. We'll be leveling and installing 2 cabinets, a sink cabinet and a drawer unit. Protruding from the wall are the stub outs for the water supply lines and the drain. Our first step is to locate the studs within the wall. To check it, drive a nail. There it is. And then drive again until I find the edge. And from here, I measure over 3/4 of an inch to find the center of the stud. And from that point, measure over 16 inches to locate the studs on either side. Now we want to place the cabinet in front of the pipes. Level it from side to side and front to back, shimming where necessary. Once that's done, we can reach back and mark for the location of the cutouts. Then with a hole saw, drill out the openings. Replace the cabinet, check again for level, and then re-shim. Then secure the cabinet to the wall. We can now install the next cabinet. As you can see, we've removed the doors and drawers to protect them during the installation. This also gives us a clamping surface here and here for joining the next cabinet. Now shim it to height and clamp it in place, making sure the face frames are flush. Then using a countersink drill bit, we drill through the face frames, making sure the drill is centered within the frame and the hole is bored straight. A paraffin-coated 2-inch screw is now driven to secure the face frames together. The final step is to secure the cabinet to the wall. With the bases set, Peggy can measure for the countertop.
To begin this project, we want to come down and measure the vanity for the countertop. So we'll measure the width, it's 21 inches, and we'll add an inch for the overhang, 22 inches. Now for the length, we'll measure first of all to this back corner, 62¼ inches. Now we know that this is a 45-degree angle. So we'll measure this wall, it's 24¾ inches. Now for the front edge, we don't want any sharp corners here because you can bump your leg on them when you come into the bathroom. So we'll come straight out with the countertop to 5½ feet, and then we'll make a slight curve to this corner. Now, first we transferred the measurements that we took from the vanity onto a 4x8 sheet of high-density particle board and cut out the dimensions with a circular saw for the straight cuts and a saber saw for the curved cut. Then finish the final shaping with a belt sander. With the panel cut, we want to bring it down and test fit it to make sure that this shape is correct. And it is. Then we turn the board upside down and apply a 2-inch strip of 3/4-inch particle board around the perimeter to reinforce the edge, and a block to reinforce the nose. Then daub with carpenter's glue and clamp. Then attach using bugle head wood screws. Now here, you want to make sure that this strip is flush with the outside edge of the countertop. Because the next step is to cut and apply the laminate to that outside edge. We'll cut an 8-foot strip 2 inches wide using a fine-tooth blade in the circular saw, cutting from the rear side. Then we apply contact cement to both the build-up strip and the laminate, and allow it to dry to the touch. Now we apply the laminate to the particle board, overlapping both edges, and with a laminate roller, press it down to ensure a strong bond. Now we finish off the edge carefully, sanding off the overlap with a belt sander. And now for the top. Now here you want to be extra careful because of the size of the sheet of laminate. Once the contact cement is dry to the touch, we want to put dowels on the particle board, equal distances apart. The important thing here is preventing the cemented surfaces from coming in contact with each other. Now you want to position the laminate on the dowels, making sure there's an overlap on all 4 sides. And starting at one end, gradually roll it down, pulling the dowels as we go. We want to use the laminate roller again to ensure a strong bond. The next step is to shave off the excess using a router with a laminate cutting bit, keeping the router in motion to avoid burning the surface. To finish, we'll smooth down the sharp edge with a file and clean off the excess glue with lacquer thinner. Now the final step is to set and secure the countertop through the corner braces with screws. You want to be careful though not to drill up through the surface of the countertop. In fact, you only want the screw to penetrate 1/2 inch. So measure from the corner brace to the top of the cabinet. Add 1/2 inch for the penetration of the countertop, and wrap a piece of masking tape around the drill bit to act as a visual depth guide.
For our sink installation, I position a template supplied with our sink on the countertop and trace the outline on the countertop for the cutout. Then we cut it out with a saber saw, supporting it with a 2x4 that's screwed into the cutout area. Then we drop in the sink and check the fit. We won't do the final installation until we install the ceramic tile around the countertop. When tiling around a bathroom, it's best to tile the walls first. This way you avoid marring a newly laid floor with either tools or tiles that might be laying around. For our situation, we'll be tiling the walls around the tub as well as the tub enclosure. All this will be done prior to setting the tub for ease of installation. But first, let's go to Peggy, who will tell us about other tiles available.
As you can see by this bathroom showroom, ceramic tile is one of the most versatile decorating materials around, and one of the most widely used, both for interiors and exteriors. Now essentially, ceramic tile is kiln-fired clay that comes either glazed or unglazed. And for its decorative beauty and durable qualities, it's a very desirable floor and wall covering. Basically, there are 2 types of ceramic tile. The glazed or unglazed ceramic tile, which comes in a vast array of colors, shapes, and patterns. And there's mosaic tile, which is generally a smaller tile that comes attached to a backing material or netting for easy installation. When selecting the type of tile for your home, it's good to consider how it will look with your furnishings and how well it complements the overall mood of the room. Ask the salespeople how it will wear with the amount of foot traffic in the area, how it feels underfoot, and how much maintenance is required.
When planning your tile installation, it's essential that the floor and walls be structurally sound. The type of wall backing material is just as important as the tile itself. As we mentioned earlier, we're using two types of wall coverings, green board and cement board. As far as the floor goes, the ideal backing is a mortar bed or a concrete slab. Because we're working on a lower level, we'll be working with a concrete slab. The next step in our tile installation is to establish the work lines. These will help guide us in setting tiles in level and uniform rows. They'll also help to designate where we'll have full tiles and where we'll have cut tiles. Starting here on the wall, I'll locate the center and draw a plumb line. And then I'll lay out the tiles on our platform so that they touch one another. The tiles that we're using have preformed spacers for easy setting. Next, I measure from the center of the wall to the corner of the adjacent wall. And with this measurement, I go back to our row of tile on the platform and, placing the tape on the end tile, measure out to establish where this dimension lands. This gives us our cut tile, which is exactly a half tile.
For the best appearance, we'd prefer to have full tiles on the wall as opposed to cut tiles. So to do that, we're going to draw another plumb line to either side of the center line, the width of half a tile. Then, when we move the tiles over to line up with that new line, it's perfect. Now the same process would apply if on your wall you were left with a space on both ends for just a sliver or less than half a tile. By shifting everything over, the width of half a tile, it gives you a space for more than half on both ends.
Okay, now the new vertical line that we've drawn will serve as a guideline for our tile. Now the exception to all this is in certain focal areas, like this curved wall, where we'll want full tiles all the way to the corner. And our cut tiles at the end, behind the door.
All right, now we're ready to apply the mastic and attach the tile. There are three general types of tile adhesive: cement-based, epoxy-based, and mastic. We'll be using the mastic, of which there are two types. Type 2 is for wall applications where there's no exposure to moisture. Type 1 is for wall applications where there's intermittent moisture. We'll be using Type 1. So to begin, starting at the bottom, I comb the adhesive across the wall using a V-notch trowel. It's best to work in manageable sections before the mastic has a chance to set up. Now as I set each tile, I give it a little twist and, applying firm pressure, embed it into position. Now after this first row of tiles is set, we'll level them. That's good. Then to keep the successive rows of tile level and plumb, we just set the tiles tight together. Now with one section done, we can move on to the next. As you work, it's a good idea to keep a bucket of water and a sponge on hand to clean off your tools and to wipe off any excess mastic that squeezes out between the tiles.
Now that Peggy's laid a quadrant of the wall with full tiles, I can cut and set the tiles along the corners. There's a simple method for measuring and cutting edge tiles. Setting a full tile over the corner space, I mark the width of the space on the tile with a pencil. Having this measurement, I set the gauge on the tile cutter and tighten the wing nut. Then lifting the handle and pressing down firmly, I draw the cutting wheel toward me across the face, scoring the tile. One pass is all that's needed. And another thing, if you're working with light colored tile, You'll want to cover the wings of the tile cutter with masking tape to prevent any marking of the surface. It's a good idea to take a few practice cuts to get the hang of it. If the mastic should set up in any area before you're able to apply the tile, it's best to remove the old and apply new mastic. Because there isn't enough room in the corner to apply the mastic with a trowel, I'll apply the mastic directly to the tile using the trowel. When I place the tile in the corner, I'll make certain that I apply the cut edge to the corner. As I go along with my cuts, I might have to adjust the guide for any inconsistencies in the corner.
Now, partway up this wall, we're adding a band of blue tile to provide an accent color. Now, these are the same size ceramic tiles as we've been using, only these come scored along the center. Now, this band will extend around the tub enclosure and along the wainscoted wall at the same height. Now here along the top edges, we're going to be installing bullnose tile. And they differ from the regular tile that we've been using in that they have one rounded edge to give the tile a finished look. We're also going to be using the bullnose tile along the outside edge. And up at the top, where the top edge meets the outside edge, we're going to be using a tile with a double finished edge.
To maintain our straight line, I'll use the level to mark for our work line. Apply the mastic and continue tiling.
Another handy tool is a rod saw, especially for making inside cutouts. Now, a rod saw is a rounded carbide blade that's fitted into a hacksaw frame.
Here at the corner, we'll set our smaller pieces first, back buttering each as we place them, then set our final row.
To maintain a consistent height, we're again using a 4-foot level and marking a grout line on the other side of the doorway. Now we'll start on the outside edges with full tiles, and we'll cut tiles to fit in the corner.
We'll begin tiling the platform on the apron. The first step is to find the center line of the apron. To do this, we'll align a framing square to our original center line. And using a 4-foot level as a straight edge, we transfer that center line to the apron. By using the same center line, the end result will be that the grout lines starting from the back wall will follow a straight line coming across the tub area, down the apron, and out the room.
We've designed the platform height to be exactly 5 tiles high. And here along the edge, we've lapped the bullnose tile over the common tile on the face. Now the platform of the tub presents some extra planning, as well as some irregular corner cuts. Now there's a couple of ways to make corner cuts. One is by using nippers, and the other is by using a tub saw. And of the two, the tub saw gives you the most control. For making clean and accurate cuts without cracking the tile, a tub saw is hard to beat. Now it's comprised of a tile cutting blade that's constantly lubricated by water as you slide the tile into the blade. To operate it, I line the mark on the tile to the blade, adjust the fence, secure it, and then turn on the power. You'll find tub saws at your equipment rental store, and some tile suppliers also carry them. Now here's an instance where we will use the tile nippers because we just have to cut a corner off of the tile to make it fit. Now tile nippers have a carbide-tipped cutting edge that first scores the tile, then snaps it off. Because of the time it takes to cut and position each of these smaller pieces, it's a good idea to back butter each piece as you put it in. There. Well, now that we've got the tub enclosure and the walls all tiled, let's go to the shower for another tiling application. After we finished tiling in this corner, we brought the grout line around here to the shower stall. Then we tiled up the face of this divider wall, again using bullnose tile on the edge. Then we tiled the three walls inside the shower stall. Now because we have to work from the grout line up and then from the grout line down, we were left here at the top of the shower stall with a very narrow space. So here we had to install sliver tiles. Then we tiled the ceiling, butting these tiles up to the wall tiles, and again using bullnose tiles along the edge for a finished look. Now over on this edge, we've used common tile, but we'll be butting a mirror up flush with them, so we'll grout the mirror right to the tile. And one last tip, you should wait a minimum of 2 weeks before you use the shower. So with the tiling completed, now we're ready to grout. Now before we grout, we want to make sure that the tile is free of any adhesive on the face or in the joints. A utility knife is a good tool for cleaning the adhesive out of the joints. This assures maximum adhesion of the grout in the joint.
Now that all the tiles have been set, we can apply the grout. Grout is a cement-based material that fills the joints in between the tiles. There are several types of grout, and they come in a variety of colors. For our purposes, we'll be using a dry set premixed grout with a latex additive. Latex additives are important in making very strong and flexible grout. I add the grout powder to the liquid mixture according to the recommended proportions, being careful not to make the mixture too soupy. The ideal consistency for the grout is similar to toothpaste. All grouts are applied in the same manner. I spread it across the tile using a rubber float. Now since it's a caustic material, I'm using rubber gloves to protect my hands. The main concern here is to work it into all the joints and to trowel across the tiles diagonally, never straight across. It takes going back over a few times to make sure that the gaps are completely filled. Once I've grouted a section of tile, I'll go back with a damp sponge and smooth out all the grout lines. Now another tip is you can use a toothbrush to pack down the grout lines and then go over the entire thing with a damp sponge. When smoothing out the grouted joints, I keep water to a minimum and using light but even pressure, wipe diagonally across the tiles. This prevents the sponge from pulling out the fresh grout. When the excess grout's cleaned off, I sponge again, this time wiping with the lines, maintaining a uniform grout width throughout a section. This will make it easier to keep clean, and it will be more attractive.
As you grout, you'll learn how large a section you can do comfortably before the grout sets up, because it's a lot easier to clean off before it dries than after.
Once the grout's dried, there will be a slight film left on the tiles that to the eye looks like a haze. With a soft but abrasive cloth, this can be buffed off the tiles. With our walls and tub surround completely tiled and grouted, we can now begin laying the floor tile. Here again, we'll want to measure and lay out for the work lines. The next step is to determine the size of the squares in the floor grid. We'll begin by laying out the tiles to form a square. The size of the square should represent the amount of tile that you can comfortably reach from a kneeling position. Then using a tape measure, we transfer the dimension to the adjoining squares and use a chalk line to mark our grid on the rest of the floor.
For the floor, we're using a cement-based adhesive for a stronger foundation. Now this is a thin set adhesive that comes already mixed and only requires water and a latex additive. And again, we're mixing this up following the manufacturer's instructions. There you go.
Thanks.
Now before you apply the adhesive, you want to be sure that the floor is clean of any sand or dust particles. Now for the size tile that we're using, Dean is using a 1/4-inch square notch trowel. Your tile supplier can recommend the proper size trowel for your tile. Now as you can see, the consistency of the thin set adhesive is thick enough to form ridges. Dean will be tiling from the tub out toward the doorway so he can exit without walking on the tiles that he's just laid.
I'm setting the common tiles first here at the base of the apron and allowing an 1/8-inch space for adjustment. On the face of the apron, you can use either a full common tile or a base cove tile designed to give a more finished look. For our installation, we'll be using the cove. We maintain the same floor grout lines from the whirlpool room into the vanity area. And once the floor tiles were in place, we set the wall tiles. Using the whirlpool room's blue tile grout line as a guide, we established the height of the border and set the tiles as we did before. Where the tile meets the countertop, we'll apply grout. and then later run a bead of caulk, assuring a good seal. The grout we're using is a pre-mixed floor grout. The difference between this and the wall grout is the addition of fine silica sand. The silica improves the grout's strength and durability. Our next task is to set the toilet. Just place the wax ring around the horn on the underside of the bowl. Apply a bead of plumber's putty around the base. This provides a seal against odor and moisture infiltration. Next come the closet bolts, which insert in the slots of the closet flange. Now taking the toilet bowl, align the holes in the bolts. Lower it down, then sit right down on it. This allows the body weight to compress the wax ring and seat the toilet to the floor. With the toilet in place, secure the washers and nuts. Careful not to thread them too tight to avoid cracking the porcelain base. Now we hook up the water supply line. We prep the rough-in stub out, leaving a short piece of the half-inch copper coming out of the wall. Then place the escutcheon over the pipe, adding the stop valve last. Then we can form the flexible copper supply tube. Measure and cut it to size with a tubing cutter, and place it through the valve's nut and compression ring, and tighten it down. Next, we can place the unit back on the stub out and align and seat the supply tube to the bottom of the tank and tighten all of our fittings.
The next fixture we're going to set is the vanity sink. Now before we set it in the hole in the countertop, we attached all the fittings and fixtures to the sink and ran a bead of caulk around the hole. Now all we have to do is hook up our hot and cold supply lines using the same procedure we did with the toilet. With that done, we can now set the whirlpool in place.
To install our whirlpool, we first assemble our drain and overflow unit, following the manufacturer's instructions. It's best to do it now while it's still accessible, before we install the whirlpool. Prior to setting the tub, we first mixed a batch of gypsum plaster and poured it on the floor of the opening. The plaster serves to secure, level, and support the tub. With the help of friends, the tub is lowered into the opening, adjusted for fit.
No, not yet. Watch your hand. Okay.
And finally, shims are added under the feet. Following the manufacturer's guidelines, we mark the locations for the spout and valves. And to drill through the ceramic tile, we're using a carbide-tipped hole saw blade mounted in an electric drill. With the holes drilled, we next position the yoke under the deck, poking the valve through the holes. Then we assemble the escutcheons over the valve stems.
For this particular fiberglass tub,
The installation involves first placing a layer of gypsum plaster on the floor. This gives us a bed on which to secure, level, and support the tub.
With the washer in correct position, we locate and secure the overflow with the lock ring. With the drain washer now in position, between the shoe and bottom of the tub, we lay our plumber's putty and screw the drain spud in. Make sure the spud is firmly tightened. Slide the stopper assembly in the drain hole first, then install the trip lever assembly. Check adjustment for proper action and secure the overflow plate with the screws provided. We'll be installing the trap later. Now for the tank. I check the underside to see that the gasket is properly positioned and secured. Then align the bolts and set the tank in place. Apply the rubber gaskets, washers, and nuts to the bolts and tighten. Then, retighten the closet bolts at the base, as your weight has seated the bowl to its final position. Now, with the hacksaw, I cut off the bolts at the top of the nuts, then snap on the closet bolt caps. Then connect the water supply line, measuring the distance between the compression fitting and the inlet pipe. Cut the tubing with a tubing cutter. Then insert the supply line into the compression fitting and tighten. Then align the end of the pipe inlet and tighten the coupling nut. Starting with the faucet assembly, I apply a bead of plumber's putty liberally to the underside of the rim. Then I attach the faucet assembly to the sink. And securely tighten the lock nuts. Then comes the pop-up drain assembly. This includes the drain flange, which is seated in the basin hole with a ring of plumber's putty or silicone caulk. Then the drain body is installed with a ball rod and adjustable pop-up rod. And secure them with the compression nuts that come with a faucet.
Once the tailpiece of the drain assembly is secure, the P-trap just hooks up to it, sliding the coupling and tightening, and then doing the same to the drain. The vanity sink has a 1 1/4 inch drain, so be sure to get the appropriate adapter to accommodate the diameter of the drain. Now secure the supply tubes to the angle stops, and we're done.
Well, that wraps up our program. We hope this video will make your next bathroom remodeling project a little more enjoyable. As with most things, there are variables with every project. Problems we weren't able to cover particular to your house in our program.
For more information on the subject of bathrooms, check the bibliography in the back of your companion project guide. And look to our other tapes for more information on plumbing, wiring, and paint and wallpaper. I'm Peggy Knapp.
And I'm Dean Johnson. So long.
Hometime is made possible by Chevrolet, who brings you full-size Chevy pickups, the most advanced in Chevy history. Chevy S10 pickups, compact, fun, and hard-working. Chevy S10 Blazer, America's most popular sport utility vehicle. Chevy Astro, the van that can. The heartbeat of America. Today's Chevy truck.